The escape pod tumbled through black space, its hull scorched and cracked. Warning lights blinked red, casting a dull glow inside. LT. Riva Kale gripped the seat straps with trembling fingers. Her breath was shallow. Her suit was torn at the side and bloodsome hers. Some knot clung to her face and neck. She had no time to clean up, no time to cry. She leaned forward, blinking through sweat and pain, and pressed the emergency record button. "This is Lieutenant Riva Kale, of the Andromeda Colony Defense Unit," she said, voice shaky but firm. "If anyone hears this, Andromeda is gone. Everyone. They're gone." Her voice broke. A burst of static interrupted her as the pod shook again. She looked back toward the tiny window, nothing but stars now, but she could still see. Fire. They came without warning. Ships shaped like knives. No signals, no mercy. They didn't want resources. They didn't want surrender. They wanted us to scream. She looked down at the blood on her gloves. I'm the only one who made it out. They let me go. They wanted me to come back. It's a message. Another jolt. Sparks flew from the console. She pressed her lips together and stared into the camera, eyes hollow. "Don't send a rescue team. Send an army." Then the screen went black. Back on Earth, far from that war-torn colony, General Elias Tarzan stood silent in the Earth Defense Command chamber. Dozens of officers surrounded him, all watching the final seconds of Riva's transmission. The screen froze on her face, dirt-streaked, eyes wide with something deeper than fear. The silence in the room was thick. She survived. One of the officers finally whispered. "Barely," another replied. "Rescue teams found her unconscious, crashed just outside Mars orbit. Medics are stabilizing her now." Tarzan didn't speak. He turned and walked slowly to the center table, where a projection showed the Andromeda colony, once bright and thriving now, marked in red with the word "Lost." "She wasn't supposed to be there," Tarzan muttered. "That patrol was for trainees, observation duty." "She rerouted," said a voice from the back. It was Captain Alice Mora, head of intelligence. "She changed her flight plans 6 hours before the attack. Said she had a feeling something was wrong." Tarzan's eyes narrowed. "A feeling." "She's always had instincts," Mora said. "Best in her unit." The lights flickered slightly. A soft hum buzzed from the walls. Earth's orbital defense net was powering up standard protocol. During emergencies, Tarzan pointed to the technicians. "Get me full visual logs from the pod. Sensor data. Any trace of who or what did this." "They jammed most of it," Mora said grimly. "No clear ship ID, no known engine signatures. Whatever hit us wasn't in the archives." Tarzan clenched his jaw. Aliens weren't new. Humans had met dozens of species, some friendly, some hostile. But there were rules, treaties, protocols. War wasn't started with silence and fire. This was different. "Send word to all colonies," he said. "Raise DEFCON level to Crimson. Lock down space lanes. And get me Riva Kale the moment she's awake." Riva woke up in the med bay. Lights dimmed to ease her recovery. Her body hurt in places she didn't know existed. Every breath felt like swallowing fire, but she was alive. And she remembered everything. A nurse stepped forward as her eyes opened. "You're safe now," the nurse said gently. "You're on Earth. Rest." "No time," Riva croaked. "I need to speak with command." The nurse hesitated, then tapped her come. Minutes later, General Tarzan entered, flanked by Mora and a medical AI drone. Riva tried to sit up. The pain nearly knocked her out again. Tarzan raised a hand. "Lieutenant, no need to speak. We saw your recording." Riva swallowed hard. "They wanted me to escape. They left a corridor open. Every other pod was destroyed. They tracked mine, but let it go." Mora leaned forward. "Why?" Riva locked eyes with her. "To send a message. We weren't just attacked. We were punished." Tarzan frowned. "Punished for what?" "I don't know," Riva whispered. "But they weren't scavengers. They were coordinated. Cold. Every human they captured dead. Or worse, some were still alive, but hooked to machines. I saw one man. His eyes were still moving, but everything else. She trailed off, shaking.
What?
War, she said finally. They're here for domination. And this was their way of saying, we can take whoever we want. And you can't stop us. Mora and Tarzan exchanged glances. Tarzan stepped back and gave the order. We mobilize. In orbit above Earth, massive hangar doors opened slowly. Warships powered up across the Sol system. Drones swept through space, carrying new AI war protocols. Defense satellites turned toward deep space. Inside Earth's Defense Command, holograms of Earth's top colonies flickered in the war room. Dozens of them. All vulnerable. Tarzan stood. At the center, speaking to leaders across the globe. This was not a random attack. It was a test. They wanted to see how we'd respond. The room was filled with whispers, questions, fear. Do we know who they are? Someone asked. No, Tarzan said. But we will, another voice called out. Do we send peace envoys? Riva's recording played again. Her broken voice filled the chamber. Send an army. Silence. Tarzan's voice dropped to a low growl. They took one of ours. They thought we'd beg, that we'd retreat. But they've forgotten who we are. We don't run. We don't forget. We sure as hell don't forgive. Looked around at the silent faces. We're not just getting revenge. We're bringing all our people home. Every last one, no matter where they're held. From the far corner, Captain Mora stepped forward. Project Retribution is ready. We've assembled the first strike team. Tarzan nodded. We launch in 72 hours. Far away, on the edge of human space, in a system with no name. A dark ship hovered above a dead world. Inside, a figure watched Riva's transmission on a cracked screen. Her voice ended with static. The figure smiled slowly, coldly. They heard it, the alien said. Another shadowy shape spoke behind. Will they come? Oh, they'll come, the first one said. Screen flickered again. We left one alive, because we want them all. The two turned to a chamber filled with suspended humans, unconscious and still breathing. Machines pulsed softly, feeding data to glowing cores. A message was being sent again this time, not from Earth, but from the captors. It read only 3 words, "Come find us." And just like that, the war began. The metal doors slammed shut behind him. General Elias Tarzan stood in the center of Earth's Global Defense Council chamber. A circular room filled with war leaders, scientists, colony heads, and AI representatives from across the solar system. The lights were low. The blue map of the galaxy rotated slowly in the air above the central table. Red markers blinked along the outer rim, colonies at risk. This isn't just a response meeting, Tarzan said, voice sharp. This is war. Planning. Many in the room looked uneasy. Some whispered to each other. Others simply stared at the rotating map, watching the red grow. They only attacked one colony, said Governor Lane of Titan. A tragedy. Yes. But are we really ready to call this an act of galactic war? Tarzan tapped the panel. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Riva. Kale's transmission played again. Her voice was broken, desperate. The last line echoed across the chamber. Don't send a rescue team. Send an army. Tarzan paused the recording. Do you still want to wait for more proof? A deep silence followed. We don't know who they are, said Admiral Chen. No name, no species ID, no known tech. We've faced enemies before, but we at least understood them. This feels different. Tarzan nodded, because it is. He waved a hand and new footage appeared in the air. Blurry stills taken from Riva's escape pod, jagged black ships. Strange glyphs on the hulls, a prison tower built into a crater. Bodhi's human bodies being dragged into the dark. These are not raiders, not scavengers. This was organized, brutal and clean. They didn't just kill, they collected. You think it was a warning? Or asked from across the room. Tarzan turned to her. No, it was a message. Now we send one of our own. He took a deep breath. I'm activating the Defenders initiative. Murmurs broke out across the room. The Defenders were a plan built for worst-case scenarios. Strike force with no borders, no red tape. Only one mission, protect humanity at any cost. It's not just a rescue, Tarzan said. It's retaliation. We're going in fast, deep, and without mercy. Anyone who stands between us and our people, alien or human, will be removed. Someone stood at the back, a tall, gray-bearded man in worn armor. His badge bore the ancient symbol of Earth's first planetary marines. They'll hit back, he said quietly, and harder. Then let them, Tarzan replied. We'll hit harder still. Far below the Earth's surface, deep in a facility only known to a few, the first defender team assembled. They stood in a circle as lights overhead hummed. Each wore reinforced combat armor, black with silver stripes. Most were ex-special forces. Some were engineers. A few were unknown even to military records. At the center stood Commander Elias Briggs, tall and cold-eyed, a survivor of the series conflict. He didn't smile, didn't speak much. But when he did, people listened. You all know why you're here, Briggs said. You've seen the footage. If you haven't, watch it tonight before you sleep, because it's the last time you'll feel anything close to peace for a long time. A small woman in the back raised her hand. Do we have an enemy name yet? Briggs shook his head. We're calling them the Scourge for now, until we get more. That's what they did to Andromeda, scourged it from history. The console beside him, a rotating scan of Sector 7 Gamma appeared, a cluster of stars far beyond trade routes, a place few ever traveled. This is our target zone. No colonies, no patrols. But Riva's escape pod drifted from this direction. That's where we start. Another defender stepped forward. What's the extraction plan? Briggs looked at her. There isn't one yet. First, we gather intel, find where they're keeping our people. Then we get them back. All of them. He stepped closer to the group. But let me be clear. We are not diplomats. We are not explorers. We're humanity's blade. And if these things want a war, we will show them what it means to start one with Earth. Back at the medical facility, Riva sat up slowly in her bed, staring out the small window that showed the Earth's moon. Her body ached. Her mind replayed. The screams, the sound of metal slicing through skin. The cold look in the enemy's eyes, if those things even had eyes. Captain Mora entered quietly, holding a tablet. They're launching the first team tonight, she said. Riva nodded slowly. Good. They're heading toward where your pod drifted from. Sector 7 Gamma. You're the only one who's seen that part of space up close. Riva turned. You want me to go with them? You're not fully healed? I wasn't fully anything when I crawled into that escape pod. I still made it back. Mora handed her the tablet. It showed the mission route, ship names, crew list. Riva scrolled through until she saw Commander Elias Briggs. I know him, she said. He served with my father during the Titan uprising. It's the best we've got, Mora replied. But he's going into the unknown. Riva looked up, her voice low. So was I. Hours later in the hangar bay, the defender ship Valkyrie powered up. It was shaped like a knife, sharp and fast, built for stealth and survival. One by one, the crew boarded. Passing armed guards and scanners, Commander Briggs stood at the foot of the ramp as Riva approached in a black jumpsuit. You're supposed to be in recovery, he said. Orders from the top, Riva replied. Handing him a signed directive, he looked it over, then met her gaze. You sure? She nodded. You'll need someone who's already seen them, someone who's survived. Briggs stared at her for a long moment, then gestured to the ramp. Then get aboard. The ship engines hummed louder. Final checks ran across screens. In a nearby control room, General Tarzan and Captain Mora watched silently. Once they enter that sector, Mora said, we might lose contact. Tarzan nodded. We won't wait for updates. We'll prepare the second wave. No more hesitation. Mora hesitated. You think they'll find more survivors? Tarzan's eyes were hard. They'd better, or there's no one left to save. As the Valkyrie lifted off and shot into the dark between stars, the crew inside readied for war. Riva sat near the rear, helmet in her lap, eyes closed. She could still see the faces of those left behind, friends, officers, families taken in. The silence of space. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a promise. They took one of ours. Now humanity was coming for all of them. The stars outside the Valkyrie's hull twisted unnaturally. The ship shuddered as it dropped out of warp near the edge of Sector 7 Gamma. Dead zone on all official maps. Inside the cockpit, alarms chirped softly. Commander Briggs narrowed. His eyes, power to shields, passive scans only. The ship coasted forward into a black fog of particles. There were no planets here, no light. Just an eerie emptiness like something had swallowed this part of space. LT Riva Kale stood at the viewport. Arms crossed tight over her chest. Her heart was pounding again. "This is where I came from," she said. "I remember this dark cloud. I couldn't see anything till they lit it up with fire." Briggs said nothing. He simply motioned to the navigator, who zoomed in on a distant cluster of asteroids ahead. Heat signatures flickered faintly just for a second, then vanished. "Something's there," said tech specialist Rami, flickering like a cloaked structure or a ship, or both. Riva stepped closer. "That's how they hid their prison towers. They phase in and out of our scanners. One moment you see it, then it's gone." Briggs gave a tight nod. "Arm up." As the team suited up in their pressure armor, the ship slipped closer to the asteroid field. Each suit was built for low light. Close quarters combat, no fancy colors, just matte black with faint glowing blue strips at the chest and helmet. The pilot slowed the ship. "Getting static interference," she said. "Comm lines are starting to cut," expected Briggs said, sealing his helmet. "We're going dark." Moments later, a shuttle launched from Valkyrie's underbelly, carrying Riva, Briggs, Rami, two scouts toward the largest asteroid, a jagged rock, slowly spinning like a corpse in deep water. The closer they got, the more the asteroid didn't look like an asteroid. Riva's voice came through the comm. "It's a structure, covered in rock, camouflaged." As they flew alongside it, they saw slits in the surface, long, thin windows. Strange lights flickered behind them. Then the shuttle's lights caught something that made everyone freeze. Face, a human face, pressed against one of the slits. Eyes wide, mouth moving silently. Riva's voice cracked. "It's one of ours." Suddenly the lights flicked out. The window vanished. The whole asteroid shimmered and faded from view. "Gone," Rami whispered. "It's cloaked again." But that one glimpse was all they needed. "They're holding prisoners in there," Briggs said. "Okay. And they know we're here now." The shuttle landed on the hidden structure's surface using magnetic clamps. The hull beneath their boots was smooth metal, pulsing faintly. "Cut." "Through," Briggs ordered. Rami pulled out a sonic drill and started cutting into the surface. Sparks danced in the vacuum. After 20 seconds, the metal gave way with a hiss of pressure. A small airlock opened like it was waiting. "That's a bad sign," one of the scouts muttered. "Move," Briggs said. The team filed into the airlock. Inside, the lights were dim and blue, casting shadows that seemed to breathe. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. They entered a narrow corridor. The walls were lined with faint glyph-salient symbols that pulsed softly as they walked past. The corridor split into 3. "Which way?" Rami asked. Riva paused, thinking. She closed her eyes. The scent, the cold, the metal underfoot. "This way," she said, pointing left. "That's where they took me, I think." They moved swiftly, weapons ready. Riva led them into a chamber filled with glass tubes, vertical, tanks filled with blue liquid. Inside them floated humans. Dozens of them. Unmoving status. Briggs asked. Rami checked the nearest tank. "Alive but unconscious. Looks like stasis." Briggs cursed under his breath. "This is a harvest station." Riva stepped closer to a tube and gasped. It was her commanding officer from Andromeda. His body was limp, but his eyes flicked open and locked on hers. She stumbled back. "He's awake." As the others moved in to help, a deep, grinding noise echoed through the chamber. The door behind them slammed shut. Then the lights turned red. "They triggered the alarm," Briggs growled. From above, hatches opened and long metallic creatures dropped down. They moved like spiders, with blades for limbs and no faces. Fast, silent. "Contact," yelled one of the scouts. Gunfire echoed through the chamber as the team opened fire. Rami took down one of the machines with a burst of plasma, but another jumped from the ceiling, slashing his arm. Briggs crushed it with a shock grenade, then grabbed Riva and pulled her behind cover. "They're not trying to kill us," she shouted over the noise. "They're delaying us." Briggs knew she was right. The enemy wanted time to disappear like before. "Let's fall back to the breach," he barked. They moved as a unit, laying down fire, dragging the wounded. Two of the tanks shattered in the chaos, and stasis fluid poured across the floor. One of the prisoners inside coughed violently and fell forward. Riva ran to him. "He's breathing. No time," Briggs shouted. "Carry him, we move now." They burst out of the corridor and sprinted back toward the shuttle. Cloaked hallway behind them shimmered as more of the spider-like machines chased them. Briggs tossed another grenade. Bought them 2 seconds. That's all they needed. The shuttle door slammed shut. The pilot was already screaming. "They're powering up something beneath the asteroid. It's going to blow." The engines flared. The shuttle launched into space, narrowly escaping a sudden burst of light behind them. The asteroid was gone. Not destroyed. It's gone. Like it had slipped through reality itself. Everyone on board sat in silence. Rami clutched his arm. The rescued prisoner was unconscious again, but breathing. Briggs turned to Riva. "What the hell did we just see?" She shook her head. "I think they're not in normal space. They phase in and out, hiding their prison sites between real space and whatever dimension they operate in." "That's how they vanished," Rami said. "How they attacked us. In and out like ghosts." Briggs nodded slowly. "We didn't just find proof they're taking humans. We found out how they're hiding them." He looked down at the prisoner one. "Of their own, saved by inches. One down," he said. Riva met his eyes. Thousands to go. Back on the Valkyrie, the data from the mission was uploaded to Earth Command. General Tarzan watched every frame, every scream, every second. Mora stood beside him. Confirmation. Tarzan's jaw was set like stone. More than confirmation. They have the tech to cloak entire structures. And they're using humans for something we don't understand. Tarzan nodded slowly. Then it's not just a rescue anymore. He looked up at the screen where the rescued man's ID had just been confirmed. A science officer from the Andromeda colony. "Send this to every colony, every government. All right. Fleet," he turned to Mora, "and tell them, the enemy is real. They are not afraid, and they have taken our people." Tarzan's voice dropped to a growl, but now we know where to look. The message went out across the stars. The first time in weeks, the Scourge knew that humanity was coming. The Valkyrie dropped into orbit over a strange green-gray world. From above, the surface looked cracked and broken, like shattered glass frozen mid-fall. Swirling clouds of dust moved slowly across canyons carved by something ancient and violent. "Welcome to Prison Planet 9, Commander Briggs said grimly, staring at the display. Riva Kale stood beside him, silent. This was the location extracted from the memory core of the rescued science officer. His mind was damaged, but one thing had come through, clearly coordinates burned into his thoughts. He'd whispered them. Over and over in the medbay, 9. They're still there, still waiting. The scans of the planet showed strange heat patterns too regular, too geometric to be natural. Beneath the surface, there were structures. Not buildings exactly, but tunnels and rooms. Buried prisons. Weapons ready, Briggs ordered. We land hard, we move fast. But Riva hesitated. This place, it's not like the last one, she said quietly. How do you mean? Asked Rami, checking his rifle. She stepped closer to the screen, eyes narrowing. The other place was hidden. This one, it's open. They want us to come. Valkyrie landed in a dry basin surrounded by steep cliffs. Dust covered everything. The air was thin but breathable. The surface was quiet, too quiet. The squad moved out in two groups. Briggs led Riva, Rami, and two scouts through the central tunnel, while the other team looped north toward a detected power source. Inside the tunnel, the walls were rough, at first natural stone. But after 100 meters, the rock gave way. to smooth black metal. The shape of the hallway curved downward in a spiral. "This isn't a prison," Rami muttered. "It's a nest." They passed doorways with no doors, just empty, silent rooms. Then they found the writing. Carved into the walls clumsily by human hands were names, dozens of them, hundreds. Riva ran her fingers across one. "Danielle Cho," she whispered. "She was a colonist, my friend." Briggs glanced around. "This isn't just a prison, it's a graveyard." But just then, a sound echoed from deeper below. Footsteps. Human. The team raised weapons. Old Briggs said, "No fire unless confirmed hostile." From the shadowy corridor, a figure emerged, slowly, arms raised. Human, male, filthy and thin, eyes wide with shock. He stopped several feet away. Then others followed him. A woman, then a child, then more. All human, all silent. "Hey." Briggs lowered his rifle. "We found them," he said. "We found the man," suddenly screamed. "Get out! Get out now!" Before they know, before anyone could move, alarms howled through the corridor. Red lights snapped on, and steel doors slammed shut behind the team. "They activated the lockdown," Rami shouted. The walls pulsed with light. From hidden vents, a gas began to hiss into the air, thick and sweet-smelling. "Rebreathers on," Briggs barked. But the prisoners didn't move. They stood still, calm. Riva stepped toward the man. "Why aren't you running? We're here to help." He looked at her, his face blank. "You're not real," he said. "They said you'd come, but you're not real. You're part of the test." "What test?" she asked. The woman beside him spoke softly. "It told us Earth would abandon us, that we'd die alone. But then we saw flashes, dreams of rescue. They called it hope conditioning. They want to see how long we'll believe it." Riva's eyes widened. "They've been brainwashed." Briggs cursed. "They've turned our own against us." Suddenly, two of the prisoners lunged, grabbing Rami and slamming him into the wall. His weapon clattered to the floor. "Non-lethal," Briggs ordered. The team fired stun pulses, dropping the prisoners without killing them. But more were coming, dozens now, screaming, confused, some crying. "They're not in control," Riva said. "They're programmed to resist rescue. We're not leaving them," Briggs said, "no matter what they think." In the upper tunnel, the second squad found a control room. Holograms flickered across the consoles. Alien language and human biometrics blended into one strange interface. There, Tech Lead connected a bypass unit. After a tense minute, a system map appeared, one showing hundreds of cells deeper below the surface. Some were labeled with alien symbols, others just had numbers. And blinking among them, a marker. Riva's father, Kale, back below. Riva and Briggs' team pushed forward, stunning anyone who resisted, avoiding lethal force. The prisoners were half-starved, clearly drugged and conditioned. But the worst part wasn't what they said did, was what they believed. They told us Earth never cared. They said we were forgotten. They said no one was coming. Every word felt like a knife in Riva's chest. "No," she whispered again and again. "We did come." At last they reached a large chamber filled with rows of stasis pods, many of them open. Inside, humans lay curled, some waking, most unconscious. Then Riva saw him, her father. He looked older, thinner, but it was him. She dropped her weapon and ran to the pod, smashing the release. The door hissed open. He fell forward into her arms, coughing. "Riva," he rasped. "I'm here. I found you." He clutched her weakly. I thought I was dreaming again." "No dream," she said through tears. "You're coming home." Above, the control team triggered the main door unlock across the compound. Cells opened. Prisoners stumbled out into the tunnels, confused but free. Outside, the Valkyrie fired flares, guiding the escape path. Briggs' voice came over the comm. "Extraction now. We've got dozens ready. Some need stretchers. They're waking up." As the teams regrouped and moved toward the exit tunnel, Riva supported her father. Couldn't walk alone, but he was alive. That was enough. But just before they reached the surface, the ground trembled. From the cliffs above, Black shapes began to rise, tall, thin, and armored in shadow. Alien guards. Dozens of them. They didn't speak. They didn't charge. They simply watched. Briggs raised his rifle, but the aliens didn't move. Then a message echoed through the prisoners' minds. It's not spoken aloud, broadcasted directly into their thoughts. We let you take them, so you'll carry the fear home with you. The air turned colder. This is not over. This was only one nest. Then the shadows faded, like smoke on the wind. The defenders got everyone on board. They escaped. Hours later, back aboard the Valkyrie, medics tended to the rescued. Many were still whispering about voices in their heads, about dreams that bled into real life. Riva sat beside her father, who was sleeping soundly now. Clean, safe. Briggs approached. You've got him back? She nodded. But it wasn't a victory, she said. They let us take them. They wanted us to see. Briggs crossed his arms. To show us we're outmatched? No, Riva said. To show us they're not afraid? Briggs glanced toward the stars outside. Good, he said. Because neither are we. And for the first time in years, Prison Planet 9 went dark. But the real war had only just begun. The lights on the Valkyrie flickered. Alarms blared across the med bay. Screaming echoed through the corridor as security teams rushed in, weapons raised. One of the rescued prisoners had attacked a crew member, not in panic, not by accident. With precision. With intent. Riva ran through the hallway, blood still wet on her glove. Got! She reached the med bay just as two guards pinned the prisoner down. He was strong, far too strong, for someone who had just come out of a stasis pod 2 hours ago. Briggs stepped into the room, his sidearm already drawn. Name? He barked. Jackson Vale, said the medic, recovered from cell block 3 on Planet 9. He's not brainwashed like the others, said one of the guards. He wasn't confused. He waited until the nurse turned her back and stabbed her in the neck with a shattered foretube. She alive? Riva asked. Critical, said the medic. We're stabilizing her now. Briggs stepped closer to the restrained man. Jackson's eyes were cold and clear. Wasn't twitching or drugged. He was focused. Talk, Briggs said. Jackson looked up and smiled. You're late. In the command deck, Jackson sat in a holding chair, to calm Ash. Briggs, Riva, and Mora, connected via Hala from Earth, stared at him in silence. You're human, Riva said. You were in a stasis pod like the others, but you weren't like them. Jackson tilted his head. Because I wasn't taken, I chose to join them. The air turned cold. You what? Briggs growled. Join the Scourge, Jackson said, voice steady. Years ago, after the first wave, I surrendered. They didn't kill me. They offered me a purpose. Mora's voice came through the hologram. You betrayed humanity. No, Jackson said. Humanity betrayed us. We were the first to be captured during the early raids, or said they'd send help. They didn't. The Scourge came back again and again. No rescue, no backup, just silence. He leaned forward, so I made a deal. Riva's stomach twisted. What kind of deal? Jackson smiled again. I helped them understand humans. In return, they let me live. In some cases, they let others live too. You think they want us dead? No. They want to break us. Mind, culture, unity. Turn us against each other. Briggs clenched his fists. Why reveal yourself now? Because I have something you want, Jackson said. The location of the central hub, the place where the biggest prison lies. Not just one nest, all of them, connected. Mora's image frowned. Why would you give us that? Jackson looked at her and said the one thing none of them expected. Because I changed my mind. Riva, you're the reason. Your broadcast. Your escape. You proved Earth didn't forget. I didn't believe it until I saw the Valkyrie above Planet 9. He lowered his head. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm giving you a chance. You want the rest of the prisoners. Back. I can show you where to start. Later in the Valkyrie's ready room, Briggs and Riva argued. We can't trust him, Briggs said. He stabbed one of our people. He told us what we couldn't learn in years, Riva replied. That there's a central prison, a command structure, and he claims to have been inside it. He could be leading us into a trap or into a rescue. Briggs stared at her. You believe him? Riva hesitated. No, but I believe what I saw in his eyes. He's broken, not brainwashed, just broken. Maybe now he wants to fix something. Briggs looked away, jaw clenched. Fine, we run recon, no direct strike. Confirm it before we go in. Jackson sat alone in the debriefing room, eyes closed. A camera blinked red above him. Inside, the ship's intelligence core, Mora, watched from Earth, silently analyzing his speech, his tone, his micro-movements. Everything said he was telling the truth. Everything also said he was hiding something. She tapped into the AI translator working on Jackson's neural readings. Conclusion: subject has experienced deep trauma and ideological shift. Probability of betrayal, 38%. Probability of genuine cooperation, 62%. Mora muttered under her breath. Not good enough. But it was all they had. 3 hours later, Valkyrie jumped into stealth orbit over a rogue moon deep in the Sagittarius Rift coordinates provided by Jackson. No colonies existed here. No traffic, no com signals. It was as dead as space could be, except it wasn't. The scan showed a massive structure buried beneath the moon's crust larger than anything the team had ever seen. Not a base, not a tower. A facility. Jesus, Rami whispered. It's the size of Manhattan. Riva stared at the scan. He was telling the truth. Jackson, standing beside them under guard, said, That's just the outer shell. It goes deeper. Briggs turned to him. What's inside? Fusion of tech and biostorage. They keep prisoners in layers. Brain link systems, emotion harvesting, data mining from memory patterns. You think they're just taking bodies? They're learning from us. Our fears, our tactics, our families. He pointed to the screen. This is where your war ends. Or begins. Briggs nodded slowly. Prep the team. No full assault yet. We drop a drone, scan the entrance. Then we move in. Jackson stared at the screen. You won't get a second chance once you step inside. Briggs raised an eyebrow. Why? Because once they see you, they'll activate the core. And when that happens, they'll show you what they've been hiding. Riva leaned in. What? Jackson looked at her. Us. Hours later, the drone returned. Inside its memory banks was a 15-second clip. No sound. Just video. It showed a vast chamber. Thousands of humans, stacked, hooked into glowing spires. Alive, dreaming, or screaming. Among them soldiers, civilians, children, all breathing. Riva watched, unable to speak. Briggs stepped forward, silent for a long time. Then he turned to the team. Out! We're going in. Back on Earth, the footage leaked from the drone made its way across colonies and defense channels. The message was clear. This wasn't a war for survival. This was a war for redemption. It's for the ones still out there. For the ones who never stopped. Hoping. And for the ones who chose the wrong side, finally came back to make it right. The Valkyrie drifted silently through the dust of a dying star system. Ahead of it, a broken moon hovered over a strange metallic world. Eco 6. Officially, this moon didn't exist. No maps. No signals. Just a cold, forgotten place sitting in the dark between the stars. Inside the command room, Jackson Vale stared at the holomap, jaw tight. This is where they built it, he said. A lab, not a prison, hidden under the surface. The core goes deep right into the moon's mantle. Riva Kale frowned. What did they build? He looked at her. An integration chamber, a hybrid system. They're not just studying us, they're combining us. Commander Briggs crossed his arms. Define combining. Jackson tapped the screen. They wire humans into machines. Memories, emotions, instincts are linked into their tech. The Scourge doesn't have AI like we do, so they built one, using us. Silence settled across the room like dust on a grave. Riva's voice was barely a whisper. How many are in there? Jackson hesitated. Thousands. Briggs turned. To his crew, get ready. This is no rescue. This is a retrieval of stolen minds. The shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere of Eco 6. The surface below was jagged, metallic, and hollow in places like the crust had been mined and repurposed into armor. The landing zone was silent, not abandoned, just watching. Squad moved through narrow trenches of dark alloy, weapons drawn. Dull blue lights pulsed underfoot. The walls weren't just walls, they were alive, breathing with a low hum that vibrated in their bones. This place gives me the creeps, Rami muttered, scanning ahead, like it's listening. Jackson replied. They've wired the whole moon. Every thought, every movement, it all flows back to the core. Ahead, a tunnel opened into a vast chamber, and there, hanging from the ceiling in long spirals of glowing thread, were humans. Hundreds, connected by cables and neural filaments. Their eyes were open, but empty. Breathing, but not moving. Pulses of light moved between them, traveling like data. Riva's voice cracked. What is this? A living computer, Jackson said. Each person is a node. They feed it thoughts, emotions, reactions, and it learns. Briggs turned to him. Can we shut it down? Jackson's face darkened. If you do, they all die. The team moved. Deeper into the core, in one hallway, Riva stopped suddenly. She'd seen something, a shape, a face. She ran ahead, ignoring Briggs' call, turning corner after corner until she reached a glass wall. Behind it, floating in a tank, was her brother, Kale E. Alive. Wired. She dropped to her knees. No. Briggs caught up and stared through the glass. It's him. Riva nodded slowly. He was taken during the second wave, he thought. He was dead. He's not, Jackson said, checking the readings. But he's linked. One wrong move, and his neural core collapses. Briggs turned to Riva. Can we extract him? She didn't answer. Then she stood, eyes full of fire. We're not leaving him. Jackson guided them to the central interface sphere of shifting light and symbols. It pulsed with life, reacting to their presence. This is where it all connects, he said. Control it, and you control the system. But we only get one. Rami set up his tools. I can rig an extraction line, pull your brother's core out of the web, and shut down the integration link. But it'll trip every alarm in this place. Dwix nodded. Do it. Rami began his work hands, moving fast. Riva watched the cables around her brother begin to flicker. His body twitched inside the tank. A soft sound escaped his lips. He was waking up. Then everything exploded in red light. Alarms shrieked. Ow! The chamber shook. Here we go, Briggs growled. From the dark tunnels, the defenders of the system arrived. Not aliens, not machines. Hybrids. Human bodies twisted with scourge armor. Eyes glowing, mouths silent. Wired like puppets, but still moving. They attacked in perfect rhythm, like a single organism. The defenders opened fire. Pulse rifles lit up the dark. Rami shouted from the control panel, I need 30 more seconds. Briggs and Riva fought side by side, clearing space. Jackson grabbed a shock lance and defended Rami as hybrids swarmed the edge of the interface. This is what they wanted us to become, Jackson said through clenched teeth. Perfect soldiers. No thought, no mercy. Riva gritted her teeth. Then let's remind them what real humans do when they fight free. A blast rocked the chamber. One of the hybrids lunged at Rami only for Jackson to take the hit, slamming into the console. His side was torn open. Blood poured. Got it, Rami shouted. Pulled the final cable, and the interface exploded with white light. The whole chamber dimmed. Hybrids froze, then collapsed like dropped puppets. In the tank, Riva's brother gasped. He was awake. Later, back aboard the Valkyrie, medics rushed him to stasis recovery. Riva sat beside him, silent. He was alive, but his eyes, they weren't the same. They watched everything. Not confused, calculating. Briggs entered the med bay. He's out of danger. Riva nodded. But what did they do to him? Jackson lay on a nearby bed. pale and shaking. Rami had stopped the bleeding, but his time was short. Riva approached him. "You didn't have to save him." "I did," Jackson whispered, "'cause I was like them, and I saw what I became." Riva nodded. "You redeemed yourself."
Nowadays.
Jackson said, smiling. "Weakly, but maybe now I've earned a second chance." He closed his eyes. His vitals dropped. Briggs and Riva stood in silence. Back in Earth Command, the footage from Eco 6 sent shockwaves through every colony. What the Scourge had done to their prisoners was worse than death, worse than war. It was erasure, future where humans were no longer individuals, but functions. Tarzan stood before the Sole Defense Council, his voice hard. "This is not just about rescue. This is about survival. This is a fight for the soul of our species." He looked to the stars. "We strike next, not to defend, not to negotiate. We strike to remind the galaxy, humanity will not be rewritten." And across every human outpost the words echoed, "The defenders are coming." The Valkyrie drifted through dead space. No stars, no signals, just cold silence. Inside the ship, everything felt heavier. The crew had rescued dozens. They'd shut down one of the biggest integration labs the Scourge had ever built, but they hadn't. One, they'd seen what the Scourge were doing were turning humans into tools, weapons, servers for their hive, and worst of all, they knew it wasn't over. Riva sat beside her brother's stasis pod. He was still unconscious, breathing, alive. But his brain scans showed signs of permanent, neural-threading Scourge, code woven into his thoughts. Mora's voice came through. "The comes. We've confirmed Jackson's data. Eco 6 was only one facility. Others are connected by quantum lattice fields, hidden in phase pockets." "How many?" Riva asked. "4. Scattered across the edge of known space." Briggs joined the call. "We hit one, and they all move. We need a coordinated strike." Mora's tone sharpened. "Or we need to hit the source." She pulled up a classified transmission one even Briggs hadn't seen. A signal not from Scourge territory, but from deep inside our own. 3 days earlier, a listening post near Saturn's shadow belt intercepted a strange signal. It was weak, fragmented, almost like a whisper, but it matched Scourge data patterns, and in the static, message repeated. "One of ours still speaks. I still remember who I am." The signal came from Colony V4, an abandoned mining world the Scourge had supposedly never reached. Mora's voice shook. "We think they left something behind. A sleeper node. A hidden lab." Briggs narrowed his eyes. "Or someone escaped." Riva leaned forward. "We're going." Mora nodded. "You have clearance? But be warned if the Scourge left tech behind, it might be unstable." Briggs was already moving. "We'll handle it." Colony V4 was a skeleton world. Rusting machines, silent buildings, dust storms that hissed like whispers across the rocks. The Valkyrie shuttle touched down near the old communications tower. Briggs, Riva, Rami, and 2 recon soldiers stepped out, rifles raised. The wind was dry. The ground cracked underfoot. No signs of life. But something watched from below. They entered the tower. Lights flickered. Old Earth systems mixed with strange, alien wiring, clearly Scourge design. "Someone's modified this place," Rami said, scanning. "Human tech. Infected with Scourge signal relays, but not broadcasting. Listening." Riva found an old door half buried in rock. He cleared the entrance and climbed down into what had once been a mining shaft. It was no longer a mine. It was a chamber, and inside they found her, a woman, floating in a suspension tank. Tubes in her spine, data cord fused to her skull, but her eyes were open. She stared at them like she'd been waiting forever. Briggs stepped forward. "Name." Her lips barely moved. "Lieutenant Myra Shao, Earth." "Navy IDO 147's Lulu." She blinked slowly. "I'm still in here, but not for long." Riva approached. "We got your signal. Thought everyone on V4 was gone." "I was taken," Mira said. "Not off-world, down. The Scourge built this place below the colony. They were testing something new." "What kind of test?" Briggs asked. Mira looked at them, terrified. They tried to implant their language into my memory, their code, their emotion. They wanted to rewrite me from the inside out. Briggs' voice hardened. How did you stop them? I didn't, she whispered. Something else did. Suddenly, the lights around the chamber shifted. Rames's scanner beeped. We triggered a pulse. Something's moving below us. Riva turned to Mira. What did you do? I locked the hive, she said. Sealed it before they could fully open the phase gate. Briggs stared. Mira nodded weakly. Back door to Earth. This was supposed to be a forward base. A loud clang echoed through the tunnel, followed by another. Then silence. Then movement. From the far tunnel, something emerged. A shape vaguely human, but stretched, twisted. A scourge hybrid, but less controlled. Wild, glitching. Prototype, Mira whispered. They didn't finish it. The creature shrieked. Sharp digital scream and charged. Contact. Briggs yelled. They opened fire. The creature moved. Fast, absorbing some shots, dodging others. Rami hit a power switch, overloading the chamber's defense grid. Arcs of lightning lashed out. Catching the creature mid-dash leap, it collapsed in a heap of smoke. But others were coming. Mira gasped. They're waking up. I can't hold the lock forever. Briggs made a decision. We pull her out now. Oh. Mira said, You don't understand. If you disconnect me, the gate opens. You need to fry the system, not save it. Riva's hands trembled. You'll die. Mira met her eyes. I died a long time ago. Just make it count. Riva raced back to the control panel. Rami prepped a feedback loop. We can overload the gate power core, he said. But we'll lose everything down here, including her. Riva hesitated. Then she placed her hand on the panel. Do it. Rami triggered the override. Mira's tank lit up. She didn't scream. She smiled, then vanished in the light. The chamber imploded inward, sealing itself forever. Back on the Valkyrie, the crew watched the debris cloud drift through orbit. Mora's voice came through, quiet. She gave us time. We won't waste it. Briggs looked out the viewport. No more running. No more shadows. Riva turned away from the window, eyes sharp. We hit the heart next. Mora responded with a single word, confirmed. The final coordinates lit. Up on the screen, the place where it all began, and where everything would end. The Valkyrie cruised toward the edge of the galaxy. Ahead of it was Scourge Prime, the true heart of the enemy. A machine world the size of a moon, covered in towers, spires, and dark clouds that moved like smoke alive with thought. It was where the Scourge first began turning humans into data. It was where they stored the source code, the root protocol for hybrid control, memory erasure, and hive linking. This was the final objective. No rescue, no escape, only one mission. End them. Inside. The ship, the crew was silent. Focused. Riva checked her pulse rifle. Briggs reviewed the drop plan. Rami ran systems diagnostics on the EMP payload. It's one massive charge that would fry the Scourge's neural lattice from the inside out. If it worked, the entire hive would crash. But they only had one shot. Tarzan appeared on the main screen from Earth Command. Every colony in the Sol network is watching you now. If you fail, we fall. If you win, we break the chain forever. Briggs nodded. Copy that. Valkyrie's going dark. They cut communications and descended. They punched through Scourge. Prime's atmosphere under cloak. The sky wasn't sky. It was a swirling cloud of data particles, thick and electric. The ground below shimmered like metal breathing. Towers reached into the black clouds like claws. Everything pulsed with the rhythm of a digital heartbeat. Target acquired, Rami said. Central Nexus, 5 clicks southeast. Touch and go, Briggs ordered. We land, we run, we detonate. No looking back. The shuttle dropped them near a canyon of black crystal. Machines crawled along the walls like insect-steeny sentries scanning for intruders. The team moved fast. Under cover of a shortwave, scram every few steps. The ground shivered like something underneath was moving, watching, waiting. At the canyon's end stood the Nexus core, a tower of light and shadow, half organic, half digital. It hummed like it was alive. They reached the base and deployed the payload. Riva looked up. "This place feels like a brain." "It is," Rami muttered. "The Queen's brain." "Let's lobotomize it," Briggs said. He placed the detonation module 10 minutes, then the pulse would fire. They turned to leave, but the tower spoke, not with words, but with thoughts, and it used a voice they knew. "Jackson Vale, you brought the weapon. Good. Now bring the rest." "Of humanity?" Riva froze. "That's not possible." "He died." The tower shimmered. A figure stepped out, his body made of light and memory. It looked like Jackson, but the eyes were all wrong. Dead, empty, imitation. "I uploaded just before the end," it said calmly. "Your war, it's wasted. You destroy a node. We adapt. You rescue one. We take 10 more. This is evolution." Briggs raised his rifle. "You're not Jackson." "No," the mimic said. "I am better. And so will you be." The tower surged. Machines erupted from the wall's hybrids. Faster and more precise than before. Silent, deadly. The squad opened fire. "Hold them off," Briggs shouted. "Give Rami time to arm the backup failsafe." But the scourge was evolving in real time. Every fallen hybrid was replaced in seconds. The system learned, anticipated, adjusted. "We're not going to make it out," Rami said. Riva gritted her teeth. "We weren't planning to." Briggs turned to her. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" She nodded. "Manual detonation." Shouted, "It'll kill you." Riva looked at the core. "Not if we make it count." She and Briggs charged the steps to the upper level while Rami pulled back, trying to hold the hybrids with automated turrets. The tower screamed in actual sound this time. A high-pitched signal that burned in their ears and minds. It was trying to stop them, invade their thoughts, rewrite their intentions. But Riva held on. Her brother's face. Mira's last words. Jackson's sacrifice. None of them died for nothing. She reached the top of the Nexus core and ripped open the main conduit. Sparks flew. Briggs tossed her the trigger. "Tell Earth it worked," he said with a grin. Riva pressed the trigger. Everything went white from orbit. Mora watched the planet crack. The Nexus tower folded in on itself, imploding like a black hole. Made of code. Shockwaves rippled across the Scourge networks. Signals went silent. Movement ceased. And then the light stopped, pulsing. The hive was gone. Dead, not dormant. Not adapting, destroyed across the galaxy. Human prisoners collapsed in their cells and woke up. Every hybrid control circuit offline. Every integration thread severed. Earth command confirmed it minutes later. Scourge neural lattice terminated. Human mental signatures independent, free. 3 days later, the Valkyrie returned. One engine gone, hull scorched, but still flying. Briggs and Riva had survived. Barely. They were patched up. It's bruised, changed, but alive and victorious. In Fronta, Earth's Defense Council. Riva stood tall. They tried to turn us into machines, to erase who we are. But we reminded them of one thing: they could never steal our will. She looked out the window at the stars. "We are not data. We are not tools. We are human. We fight for our own." The chamber erupted in applause. In the outer colonies, the Scourge ruins were studied, not reused, not rebuilt, just watched. Because one truth remained: there could be others, other hives, other enemies. But now, the galaxy knew one thing for certain. You take one of us, we'll come for all of ours, and we won't stop. Not ever, because we are the defenders.